Hi everyone, it's me. My name is Alanna and I'm a Canadian, but I have been living here in the UK for the last 8 years. Nearly 9 years. My anniversary is coming up, which is wild. And of course, for the last 8, almost 9 years, I have been working in the UK, and it has been quite a journey. When I was a kid, I was never someone who had like a passion, who had like a dream job per se. One of my friends wanted to be a chef. She is now a chef. One of my friends was like super artistic. Guess what? She is now an artist. Another friend I had growing up really wanted to be a teacher, really wanted to work with kids. She is now a teacher. And then there's me. I never had a passion for anything. A passion for a professional career. I never had like a goal. And so as someone like that, I'm always supremely fascinated in how people get into their particular jobs. What was the timeline? What did you do? How did you get there? Because for me, I've never had like a set path. So grab a seat, get cozy, put your feet up, maybe get a hot drink. I have a pumpkin pie spice latte. Yes, I know. And cheers to Fiverr for sponsoring this video, which is wild. A little bit more on that later. So, where do we even begin? Probably at the beginning. Without further ado, let's go. So let's rewind. We're starting our story, of course, in the beginning. So I moved to England at the end of 2015, end of November, and I actually had 2 job interviews lined up for the first week I was gonna be in England. I was ecstatic, nervous, excited. Here we go. I'm gonna get my first job in the UK. Just kidding. I was rejected for both. Trying to get my first job in the UK was humbling. I was applying for jobs that I had either done before or I had worked at a higher level, and yet I couldn't even get an interview. And that was horrible. It felt horrible. So it carried on like that for a little bit. But then of course we hit like the Christmas season, right? A lot of people are not gonna be hiring over Christmas. So I stopped. But come January, I started applying to jobs like it was my literal job all day. I'd put on daytime TV. I'd be watching old episodes of Top Gear, not really knowing what I'm looking at, and just applying for jobs like you wouldn't believe. And after a couple of weeks, I got a call from a temp agency. Now, I have never worked with a temp agency before, or I had never, spoiler alert, because I took that job. But at this point, I didn't know what a temp agency really was. I'd never worked with them. I had no prior knowledge or knew anyone who was a temp worker before. It was all very new to me. But basically this guy called and was like, we have a temp position. It's for 3 months out of college. We think you would be good for it. He gave me some of the details and then he was like, can you come in and have an interview? And I said, sure, let's do it. So I went in. It wasn't really an interview. I think it was more to just prove that I was a real person and I wasn't insane. So I got the job. And this whole video, this whole like career process, honestly, I owe to that temp agency because that is how I got my foot in the door and that is how I started working in the UK. So what did I learn in the beginning? Well, this was a very illuminating time. I learned a lot of stuff and I was, 22, just about to be 23. It was a real learning experience. Getting that first job in the UK was much harder than I thought it would be. My confidence took a real hit, getting rejected, application after application, hundreds of applications, getting rejected for all of them. It was rough. And really logically it makes sense. British businesses don't want to hire a foreigner if they can help it. Hiring a foreigner means you have to deal with visas. They may not be allowed to stay in the UK permanently, like I currently still can't be here permanently. So getting someone to hire you and to train you, and then of course them knowing you don't have any UK experience, it's just way messier, and it would be so much more simple for that British business to just hire a British person. And that's definitely something you have to come to terms with. And especially early on, it may be the case of you have to take a job that most British people don't want. So you kind of get like the leftovers. But this 3-month temp position at the college is my starting point for working in the UK and the reason that I've had an actual career here. So lower your standards, people. Don't turn your nose up at literally any job offer because you have no idea what could happen afterwards. Let's call this next chapter employed life. So starting at the college was a wild experience. Really learned a lot about working in the UK. My 3 months was up. The college said, we still need you, so they renewed my contract. And we actually did that for an entire year. And eventually the college was like, okay, it's been a year. We obviously need this position. So they hired me from the agency as a full-time college employee. So I was no longer a temp, which was just incredible. And my life here in England really began to settle. That first year was pretty hardcore, a lot of emotions, a lot of ups and downs and anxiety and uncertainty and everything. But once I got the like full-time employed position with the college, life really started to sort of settle. I knew how to get to work. I knew what work was. I knew how to do my job. I knew how to get to the supermarket. You know, like all of the day-to-day stuff I had learned at that point. And at this time, I started a little hobby called Adventures and Naps, a YouTube channel. And to be honest, I was bored. I was lonely. I was not having maybe the most exciting time. I think I was naive as well. You sort of have this picture in your mind of like living in a foreign country, you're gonna be traveling all the time, you're gonna be doing all this great stuff. But really my life was commuting to work, commuting home, making dinner, and then watching a little bit of TV and going to bed. And that was my life, right? Because that's life. And I was also at this time studying HR. So again, back to my earlier statement, I have no passion for any one particular thing. I've never had a goal professionally. So while I was starting off in England, I thought maybe I could do HR, right? Like I'll probably be in an office based on my previous career and like previous jobs. Likely gonna be in an office. HR is something that I could learn. So I was studying like distance learning HR. So my weekends were basically schoolwork and my weekdays were working my regular job. And I was living my best life in a foreign country. I have learned a lot since living in the UK, not only from learning from the British people and learning about British culture, but also I have been aging. Aging in real time in front of your eyes. And in the early days of living in the UK, you know, 22, 23, I had that realization that I think everybody goes through, right? You have an adult job and you are like living an adult life and it's kind of boring, you know? It's a lot of commuting, it's a lot of working, doing laundry, making dinner, deciding on what to make to dinner, go to the supermarket, watch a bit of TV, go to bed. And that, you know, an adult regular life, I think learning that always kind of sucks, right? You're telling me that being an adult is not like crazy excitement and doing cool stuff all the time? However, YouTube and creating content during this portion of, you know, during this sort of like adult realization was life-changing. And it was such a perfect creative outlet. So while I was studying and that was boring and work was fine, you know, not very exciting, and commuting on 2 buses every morning and every night kind of sucked, I had this hobby that really made me happy and it was huge. It was really huge. Now let's fast forward because there's a lot of years we gotta cover and we only have so much time. And if you're still watching this, God bless you, I hope you're doing well. After a while, I did change jobs. I started working more into like a marketing sector. I leveraged the fact that I was doing Adventures and Naps, I was doing YouTube, and I said, hey, I taught myself how to do this. I can be taught other things. So I started a new job. I also quit HR. Sorry HR. Yeah, I quit that. It was fine. It was just boring. And it got to the point where I was like, I don't really want to continue this. So I think I did, there's like 10 courses or 10 classes you had to do. I probably did 7, maybe, or 6. And eventually, over the years, I transitioned to a content creator full time. It was very shocking. It was very surprising. It was absolutely not what I expected when I started this channel. But first, we have another chapter, and this one's called Business Girly. So a couple of years ago, my partner and I were back in Canada visiting my family, try to go once a year. and we were just sort of like hanging out around the house, and he said, what about if we made a business making hand-blended fragrances based on like famous people or famous places or places that were meaningful to us? And I said, hell yeah, let's do it. And our business, Edenbridge, was born. Fragrances may seem like a random choice, but up until this point, we were both very interested in scents and perfumes and fragrances. Saying fragrances so many times doesn't feel like a word anymore. Anyway, it was something that we were actually interested in. So while this idea seems kind of like out of left field, it is kind of like in the realm of our interests. But the idea that we could make things specifically inspired by like places in Kent or famous people, like that was so interesting to us. And thank God, because it's turned into its own business. And Edenbridge has been so much fun, and it's really rewarding. It's also really helpful to have, like in this sort of self-employed space, it's really helpful to have multiple projects, because sometimes one particular project does not do well. And if you are solely relying on that one thing, that's scary. Yes, scary. But Edenbridge is also nice because it doesn't require me physically to be on camera. Sometimes I just want to be a gremlin. I want to be in my pajamas. I want to be listening to the Skyrim soundtrack with ambiance, and I want to be packing up orders or making up fragrances or, you know, like creating something off camera. Over the last couple of months, we've been thinking of what do we want to do with Edenbridge? What is the game plan? And that's actually how we got involved with today's sponsor, Fiverr, because we want to take Edenbridge to the next level. But we needed a little bit of help. Fiverr connects you with freelancers in a wide variety of fields. So anything from graphic design, website development, video editing, business consulting. It's a big list. And there is so much that goes into building a business that I don't know how to do. Shocking, I know. So our latest challenge in this like Edenbridge revamp is we wanted a better logo. My partner and I are not graphic designers. We started with something that we created. It was the best that we could do. It's not great, but it was something. Fiverr makes it so easy to connect with freelancers, so you can view their portfolio, you can review their past work, you can go through all of their reviews, like customer reviews, and you can kind of get like a feel for the freelancer and what they could possibly do for you. And recently, we have been working with freelancer Lewis Key. We wanted a timeless logo. We wanted something simple but historical, and most importantly, something that was designed appropriately so we could scale it up or we could scale it down, something that our current logo could not do. And in the end, we received this. It's simple, but it's classic, it's timeless, it's what we were looking for, and more importantly, it's formatted and designed in the proper way that we can use it. We can use it big, we can use it small, which is something that we could not do with our original logo. Overall, I love how easy it is to find freelancers on Fiverr, how easy it is to go through past work, to read through reviews, to really get a sense of the freelancer before you work for them. Without Fiverr, I don't even know how to find, how would you do this without Fiverr? I don't even know. Make sure to check out my link in the description. Head over to Fiverr and you can find out what services are right for you. And you can use my code AdventuresandNaps to get 10% off your first order. Now, what is next for Edenbridge? So the reason we wanted to start with a new logo is because we want to rehaul our entire packaging, our bottles, our packaging, our boxes, like all of it. And the dream is to sell our fragrances in various stores around the UK, would be absolutely incredible. But we really wanted to improve the overall experience before we got there. So you kind of have to start at the bottom. We got a new logo. The new logo is going to go on everything. The next step will be the bottles, then the packaging, and then hopefully sell in stores. That's the ultimate dream. It feels kind of like out there, but I do really think it's attainable, which is exciting and terrifying. And with that, let's talk about the content creator era. And that brings us here to my desk. In our last flat, it was the kitchen table, but I have upgraded to an actual desk, which is very exciting. Okay, so let's talk self-employed content creator. First off, content creator, cringe name. If we could come up with a new title, that would be great. So I post a YouTube video every Tuesday. like this one, ta-da! But to be honest, I would not be able to live off of YouTube. I don't make enough. A video could make 40 pounds and that's it for that week. So it's just not possible for me. I'm sure it's possible for other people, not possible for me. So my first big YouTube tip is to diversify. So Adventures in Naps is actually like a combination of a bunch of stuff. So we have the weekly YouTube video, and I've been doing that 7 years now. It's been a long time. But I also do YouTube memberships and Patreon. So this is what I would call like the exclusive community. It's the same perks on both platforms, but I just offer them on both platforms because I know some people like Patreon, some people like YouTube memberships, but it's the same stuff. One of the perks is a exclusive weekly video. So I actually do 2 videos a week. And then on the exclusive stuff, I do a bunch of other perks like live streams and postcards and what have you. And then from this desk, from this office, I live stream on Twitch twice a week. So every Wednesday night and every Sunday night. And then there's also like other little bits throughout the month, like social media and Instagram. I do a monthly email newsletter thing. So there's like little stuff, but that's kind of like that's the Adventures in Naps thing. And to be completely honest, I never even imagined being here. I started YouTube, like I said, I was bored and I was lonely and I needed a hobby, you know what I mean? And I never imagined that my silly little videos would resonate with so many people, or there would be such a large community online who would want to support me, because that's the only way I've been able to continue for so long is people like you, literally. And now it's been 7-ish years of creating content online, and I do worry. If we're being honest, this is honesty hour. I do worry. Sometimes I'll lie in bed at night. I'll lie in bed at night when I can't sleep and I just think about like, when is the end going to come? Because it does come for everybody when you create stuff online. At some point, for whatever reason, you know, it comes to a close. And lately there's been a lot of YouTube channels that I watch and I really enjoy, and they've all kind of been like dying out. And so now it's like, when is it my turn? Now, do I miss being employed? There's definitely pros and cons to anything, right? Any job I've ever had, there's been pros and cons, and that's no different from being like self-employed versus traditionally employed. I live with a level of anxiety and fear that month, what happens if I can't pay my bills? That's the reality. I certainly wouldn't have that if I went back to working in an office. The fear of like it ending abruptly is not really a thing unless, you know, you get fired or you get made redundant, but that's not usually like a fear you carry with you every day at work. I also really miss just seeing my colleagues and my coworkers. Working for yourself and working at home is very isolating, and sometimes I feel like I am losing my mind. So you have to be really careful about leaving your house and making a point to be, you know, around people and doing stuff, because yeah, when you're at home and you're working just in here, just me in here, you do kind of lose your mind. So I do miss my colleagues, I do miss office gossip, and I do miss those special days when someone would bring in a cake. Wonderful. However, I have the absolute privilege to run my own business, both the Edenbridge business and the Adventures in Naps business. And that is, it's life-changing. I know that's like really cringy to say, but it is. I have been able to connect with so many people that I never would have crossed paths with had it not been for Adventures in Naps. You know, I get messages from people who are like, I've been going through a really tough time and I've been watching your videos and they make me feel better in like a really horrible part of my life. And I just think, oh my God. Or I've gotten emails from fellow expats who are like, hey, by the way, I've always wanted to move to the UK. I started watching your channel and guess what? I've moved and I've settled here and I just wanted to say thank you for all your help. What? So while there is definitely a level of anxiety, and it's also just me, I am an anxious person, so there's always a level of anxiety. There is definitely a level of, I do worry about the impending doom of the end. So even with the like anxiety of, you know, when will this end? Like, what if people stop watching my videos altogether? Like, what do I do next? Even though there is that anxiety and it will always be there, I think the privilege of being able to create content and to connect with people is really hard to explain. And I'm so privileged, and I'm so thankful to still be here, and I hope to be here for a long time. Knock on wood. Where do we go from here? Like I mentioned, I think one of my struggles right now with what do I do in 5 years, 10 years, is I can't really see myself doing anything else, which is, kind of probably a bad thing. But also, I think I'm kind of where I'm meant to be. So what happens next? Where do we go from here? I literally do not know. But I'm gonna keep making content because that's what makes me happy. Big shout out to Fiverr for sponsoring this video. Make sure to check out my link in the description and get 10% off your first order with Adventures in Naps. That's my code. Adventures in Naps in the description. And honestly, just thank you guys for being here. If you have seen the end of this video, thank you for supporting me. YouTube doesn't exist. Like, being a content creator, as stupid as that title is, that really doesn't exist without the audience, without the online community. I wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me over the years. I feel like my life has really changed over the last 7-8 years, now almost 9 years in England. And it is just kind of, it's been a wild journey. And I really appreciate you guys being there with me. Anyway, what's on the agenda for this self-employed girly? Well, editing. Editing this video. I do all my own editing, which you probably guessed if you've watched literally any of my videos. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna stop rambling. If you wanna watch more videos, definitely check out this one. I did a solo trip to a British museum and I had a great time. But as always, thank you guys so much for being here. And until next time, bye.